Welcome to another episode of Carolina Commercial Real Estate Connection. Today we have Eric Farewell with us out of Texas. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Truly a pleasure to be here, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. We have a ton of different topics. Eric is a serial entrepreneur, has 5 businesses, and does nothing all day. He seems to like to relax and spend all his quality time just watching these businesses grow. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, it's truly a pleasure, man. I love what you guys are doing in your businesses as well. My little bit of research on you, I think that you might be the most passionate builder I've ever even heard of.
Yep, we love to build and love to make people happy, and that's all we care about. So, yes, so you are mission-driven businesses is what you've stated. That is you. So explain that in a little further detail to everyone.
Well, I believe that businesses that are designed just to make money are designed to fail. They may make lots of money, but everyone in that business will eventually burn out and end up feeling like they've lost their sense of purpose. So I've been really blessed that every time I found a passion in my life from a very early age, from about the age of 5, I turned it into a business. And those businesses are in wildly obscure niches, and somehow they have flourished largely because we get clear enough on what our mission is. So each of our businesses is really directed toward helping elevate human consciousness and kind of go above fear, because I think that everything above fear is where you find joy. It's where you find peace. And there's a lot we can go a lot deeper there, but that's the basis.
I absolutely love that. Yeah. So, okay. So you're saying from 5, you own 5 businesses currently. At what age did you create your first business that had some success?
First business with employees, I was 13 years old. I had been saving for 6 years working at my grandparents' restaurant to buy my first airplane because I wanted to fly. I got my first airplane right at 3 years old, and I knew that flying was going to be the place where I could be me, where I could overcome all the adversities of being a child. And frankly, it became such an obsession. I worked full time at a restaurant at 7 years old. And at 13, I'd saved up enough pennies and bought my first airplane kit, and quickly discovered that ADHD kids are not designed to build airplanes. So I put it up for sale on this new thing called the internet. It was 1999, and it sold. And very quickly, the guy I bought the airplane from said, the interwebs? Now, he was about 78 years old at the time, and he had a hangar full of airplanes and offered me a commission to sell them. So fast forward over the next 5 years, we'd sell several hundred airplanes and had mechanics and just an incredible team of people that was built around that. And that was my first kind of brush with entrepreneurship at scale, and it changed my life forever.
That is amazing. And so that developed a passion for you. Or I guess you already had the passion, but allowed you to live out a passion for aviation that you've had. And so one of your main businesses right now, a couple of your main businesses, they all seem to intertwine a little bit with aviation. So your main business right now, could you kind of go through that? Because it goes in the private sector and the public sector.
It does, and it's a weird one. So a paramotor is a fan you strap to your back, and a paraglider you run into the sky with this paraglider above your head. And it's like kind of the ultimate freedom machine. I got into these. I don't know if you have kids. I have 3, 9, 11, and 13. And when we were pregnant with our first, I was still flying every day in my family's airplane, my uncle's airplane at the time. And airplanes are expensive, even if you don't own it. And I was flying to an airport, and I'd stop and I'd write. I was writing a lot of copy at the time. I got into marketing and all of that. And at the time, I was just enjoying flight. And then we found out we were pregnant. And it was a total shock. And so I said, I have to find a way to keep flying, but do it cheaper. And the paramotor is so affordable. It's about $5 an hour, $8 an hour to operate. So it's so affordable. And then I went and learned, and it kicked my butt, man. It was so hard. Aviation had always been the thing that I was good at, that I was kind of a natural at. And this was so physically demanding. I'd broken my back in an accident about 7 years before, in an aircraft accident. So I had a lot of pain, and you're putting 70, 80, 90 pounds on your back and sprinting. So,
oh my goodness.
Long story long, once again, my hobby passion turned into a business because people started asking me to teach them how to fly them. I was already an ultralight flight instructor. It was kind of a natural fit. And then my goal was, how do we kind of revolutionize the industry? How do we make this more professional? How do we inspire people and make it as safe as possible? So from that point forward, now 13 years in that business, it is by far the largest paramotor flight school, which sounds like the weirdest compliment because it's still a weird, obscure business. But we employ about 25 people, and we have hundreds of students every year, whether they're learning to fly for the first time or they're getting their tandem certifications. They can take someone with them, or training the special forces. We trained the Delta, we trained SEALs. We've had such an incredible opportunity to work with those different folks, and now research and development for all sorts of crazy things I can't talk about, which is a lot of fun.
That's amazing. So people who understand this little, so it's basically you're taking a paraglider and putting a motor on your back, if I'm understanding it right. So, and how far can you travel on one flight typically?
So it depends on the glider you're flying, depends on conditions, everything else. Most people will fly for 30 minutes to an hour at about 30 miles an hour. As you get more experience, more advanced, like my glider does about 60 miles an hour, 58 miles an hour. One of my students, dear friend of mine, flew 1,100 miles in just a few days. I would not recommend this for travel. This is meant to see the world. It's more like riding a motorcycle. Yes, you can travel the world on a motorcycle. I've done it. And I'll tell you, it's wonderful, but also your body hates you afterwards. So
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So this sounds, to me, this would be almost, I don't know that you have to be kind of a little bit of a rebel, wild and fearless to be going up in a paraglider with a motor and just flying all around. Although, that is a great way. It's almost creating yourself as a bird. So you're not just going up for a short period. I know initially when you mentioned it to me, I'm like, is that like those little rockets? But those are, you just go up and you can't travel high enough. You don't have a long distance you can go.
we
And
can fly up to 18,000 feet. You go up to the
oh my
60 miles an
goodness.
hour, fully aerobatic. If you want to be, I've been so blessed to fly in dozens of states and probably close to a dozen countries now, and taking off out of a winery that you spent the night in before in Czech Republic, flying through 3 different mountain passes, circling castles, dropping into the next winery to spend the night. It's a pretty unique and exceptional way to see the world.
That is great. Now, are there restrictions when you go to other places in order to fly these things?
There are. Every country has their own rules. It really depends on where you go. For instance, in Costa Rica, we actually had a partner school in Costa Rica for a couple of years, and as long as you stay away from their major airports, they didn't care what we did. There was no rule. It was beyond crazy to me. Places like Czech Republic are much more restricted, but it's really actually a fabulous thing because the restrictions in the U.S. are limited, but they're really designed to keep people safe on the ground. And in Czech, they have more restrictions around it, what makes the aircraft safe. And so you're allowed to fly over cities. You're allowed to go downtown. We flew into an industrial park and looked at where they were building parts for our paramotors. It was the most remarkable experience. It wasn't a rainstorm. The rainstorm part kind of sucked a little bit, but
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Okay. Oh wow, that is awesome. All right, and with this business, you have worked your way out, and so we discussed a little bit. So we talk a lot here about Entrepreneurial Operating System, the EOS. And how long ago did you bring EOS into this business?
So in 2018, a bunch of things happened in my life. My marriage was on the rocks, like in a terrible place. And it probably had something to do with the fact that I was working between 80 and 105 hours a week, and had been for years. But I had a couple of students who came through and learned to fly with us who were phenomenal entrepreneurs, and they both were EOS implementers. And they brought us up to Atlanta. We sat down, and I was able to go through the process of implementing EOS initially. Shortly thereafter, my brother passed away, and he was 22 years old, died in a car accident. And I hate to say this because it sounds glib, but I woke up. Here I am making at that point probably close to $6 million a year, feeling like I'm on top of the world. I finally made it. My ego feels like I have value, like I actually matter. I've got all these employees coming to me, and I'm feeling awesome. And then my brother died, and he moved in with us when he was 18. So we had a 1-year-old and we had an 18-year-old, which is a very interesting experience. And he worked for me. And when he passed, I just kind of woke up and said, none of this matters. Like none of this matters. The money doesn't matter. The fame doesn't matter. The constant gratitude from employees and customers didn't matter to me anymore. All that mattered was fix my marriage, get to know my kids. I go to work
Mhm.
before they woke up, and I get home after they went to bed for week after week. And it had to change. So EOS was implemented. And it took me a while. It took me a couple of years to really get out of the way, to have the ego death of saying, I don't need to be the solution to everything. And then over the last, so I guess it's been about 2 years now since I've worked in that business, 2.5. And it's been like a whole new reawakening of who I am. Like without the title of CEO, how do I matter? Right. Even though I have all these other companies and some of which I still have that title, I'm not doing CEO work. And it's really been fascinating to see how systems operations, things like EOS can step in and just fulfill such an incredible role because they get you so clear on your vision. They get you so clear on your mission. And I've taken a lot of those things from EOS and Gazelles and everything else I can, and now built it into what I'm doing for clients in my coaching and in my consulting. And it's really been amazing to witness these humans who are already super cool people start to reclaim their life and what happens for their businesses as they begin to align with what their real values are. And it's just, I mean, money's a byproduct of living in alignment. It really, truly is, in my opinion. And these people are just attracting money like you wouldn't believe, and they're actually feeling confident about what they're doing. And we track their time to make sure that they're only doing things they actually like to do, and they hire people to do the stuff they hate. They sell the businesses that don't serve them. It's really fun.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's critical in understanding this. Now, you just gave a bunch of information very fast there.
Sorry,
So I
that's
want to
my
break it
nature.
down. That's great. No, it's fantastic. I just want everyone to be able to, to absorb some of these items in. One, first of all, yeah, it's great that you were having your brother live with you. I'm so sorry that you lost your brother. I can only imagine. I have a brother. He's, my best friend in life. So sounds like your brother was to you. So
Give them extra hugs, buddy. Give them extra
yeah, give
hugs.
them extra hugs. Absolutely. Yeah. But many things that you mentioned. So one, marriage, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs, it's actually one of the main things that happens when you are a driven entrepreneur. Your relationships all fall to the wayside for the business because you do everything business and everything else pales in comparison. That's just the way that a lot of entrepreneurs are wired. So, great for you for realizing that and trying to take some proactive steps. I've been through the same thing where it comes to a point in a marriage where your wife doesn't want to just sit around anymore waiting on you and doesn't really care how much money you make. There gets to a point where as long as everyone's living well, the rest of the money doesn't make any difference, right?
Absolutely.
It is goes back to you just ego. So, one thing that you said that I really think is something that we should discuss a little more is once you get to a position of delegating out all of these things, as an entrepreneur, you lose and you question, what's my purpose? I don't have anything to do anymore. So a lot of people have a hard time letting go of these day-to-day things because that's their purpose. So could you go through a little more of the iteration of how that kind of formulated for you and what that path looked like?
What I think is really fascinating is that most of what we do as entrepreneurs is really working to cover up all the insecurities of our childhood. It's working to cover up the pain of not feeling loved enough, of being bullied, of being tormented, of being mistreated, whatever may have happened. We find things that we're good at and that people tell us we're good at, and we believe that these are the things that make us have value. I've done a ton of men's work. I'm in a couple of different communities with men that are just some of the best men I've ever met. One is called Front Row Dads. It's a group for family men with businesses, not businessmen with families. And that group changed my life because I learned that even though these men were doing hard work, somatic work, they're doing the meditation, they're doing the therapy, they're doing everything they possibly can. The number one challenge that these men held in common was they did not know how to love themselves. They could love themselves at work. They could appreciate how they showed up there, but they didn't understand that their value as a human was more than the sum total of the work they did. And I'm saying they a lot, but what I really mean is me.
Right.
I didn't know how to have a value outside of what I was producing. I was a striver from such an early age because it allowed me to believe that I had merit on my own, that if I could set a goal and pass it or surpass it, I actually mattered. And that's nothing, I could sit here and berate my parents or my siblings or whatever else. That's not my point. My point is we all have stories. We all have stories of our life in early childhood that we are running from for most of our adult lives. And when we get successful, we triple down because, oh my God, now I'm good. Now I'm lovable. And we look for that outside influence so much. So as I was moving away from work, realizing I wanted to align my priorities with my family, the funny thing is, the number one thing that changed, COVID hit and I was high risk. I had bronchial spasms, asthma type. So before we knew what it actually was and how bad it was, we had the affluence. We just said, okay, let's stay home. So we didn't see another human for 4 months. By the way, that's a great way to either fix or destroy your marriage. We repaired, thank God. My wife and I are in an incredible place. We didn't see them for 4 months. And then I did the logical thing, which is a normal entrepreneur thing, is I bought a bus and I loaded up my kids. And we actually made it as far as South Carolina before the bus blew up. And we had to buy another bus. So we bought bus number 2. We also put a videographer in the trailer. And so he stayed in the trailer and we hit the road for what was supposed to be a 6-month trip. It turned out to be 4. We get home, we found out some crushing news about a partner that had been with the business and some negative things that happened there. And suddenly we get a call from our warehouse manager saying, "Oh, I'm going to go work for your ex-partner." Okay.
Oh boy.
5 days notice. And my wife, who's been a stay-at-home mom all this time, this is now October, November of 2020. My wife goes, "I could do it." So she goes into the office and I have to stay home with 3 kids homeschooling. You know how quickly you have to let go of your ego when all of a sudden your entire world is reversed? I'm not in the office. No one can ask me questions. Suddenly I have to build systems because if they keep asking me questions, they keep interrupting math time, right?
Oh boy. Yep.
So definitely an interesting journey and voyage, and so grateful for that push, because that push really started the domino fall of how do I build the right systems, ask the right questions, hire the right people, have the right vision, and just clarify everything to such a point that now when we hire people, not only do we hire people for a fraction of their former salaries because they believe in the mission, and they're paid well. I'd love to pay everyone billions of dollars, but sadly, business doesn't work that way. But we hire people who have so much passion that I don't have to be there to carry the torch. So 18 months ago, 19 months ago, we realized that what we were lacking most in our life was community. So we left the businesses in Florida, packed everything up, and in 5 weeks from the decision making, from the visit to decision to leaving to moving into a new house, we moved to Texas. So proof positive the businesses are still working without us.
That is amazing. Now, based on what you're just saying, hiring people for passion and alignment with the mission, how are you identifying those traits in the interview process?
So one of the things that we've done is we very purposefully have almost exclusively hired former customers. So over 95% of our staff are people who have deep passion for whichever business they're in. They love it. They live it. They breathe it. About 30% of our employees literally bought vans, turned them into campers, and parked them outside of our business. This is their life. This is not a lifestyle job. This is a life. And when you have people that bought in, it's hard not to have them. The number we turn away is actually really sad, because I'd love to hire everyone that wants to come work for us. It's an incredible environment. I'm actually flying back to Florida in a couple of weeks for Thanksgiving. We throw Thanksgiving at the hangar with all the employees, their families, all the students that want to come. We may have somewhere between 60 and 150 people there easily. It's the family they chose.
Yeah. That is amazing. So when you were transitioning, could we go through a little bit of these iterations? So when you're saying that you decided to start getting out of the business to focus on family and started, documenting processes and, giving away, delegating responsibilities, how did that look? Who did the documentation of the processes? Did you have someone come and help you? Did you figure all this out on your own? How did that look?
I can't take all the credit, that's for sure. I'm very grateful for the team that we have. Most of what I've discovered over the years is if you have an SOP that goes into a binder, that binder never gets opened again. So it's more about empowering your team to make good decisions. One of our core values is to be entrepreneurial. We want them to believe that if they're 80% confident that their decision is right, don't run it up the flag chain. There is a limit. If there's $500,000 attached to more, let's have a conversation, right? But the reality is, if they're confident, we hired them for their smarts, we just started to iterate to the point where our employees take more ownership. And certainly there are systems in place and things in place to ensure that we have KPIs we can follow. Our shipping department makes a mistake, we know what percentage of packages are shipped to the wrong place, that kind of thing. Because it's a fairly vast operation. We have 3,800 SKUs, on our online store. There's a lot of different moving parts and suppliers from all over the world. All of a sudden COVID hits and you go from a 30-day backlog to a year backlog on receiving things, and you have to anticipate what you can do. And there's a lot to do. But most of what it's been is, yes, creating systems that if someone dies or quits or leaves for a month, the business can still operate. And so in 2022, it's exactly what I did. I left the business for a month, and I took my wife, who at the time was our warehouse manager, with me. We went to Alaska with the kids, no email, no phone. All right, now what? And we came back and we had more profit that month. We killed it. The employees were all happy. I felt like the most rested man I'd ever been. My wife was overjoyed. Life is good, right? So building out systems that can sustain without you is doable, but it's all about finding the right people who believe in what you do. And if you don't believe in what you do, you have to get so refined on that, because the mission can't just be making money. It doesn't work. And maybe in Wall Street it works. It just doesn't work for me.
Well, I would tell you, it's so refreshing to hear you saying so many of these things are the same things that happen at my business. So I wholeheartedly believe in so much of what you're saying. And not a lot of people say this. We get a lot of platitudes when you have people on, and they talk, but this is the simple reality. And just to speak to your point of empowering your employees. So it is difficult. Some employees, they want to come bounce things off you. They want to come bounce things. So especially when I get new employees, they want to bounce off. Most people don't bounce them off of me, but they bounce them off of everyone. And I'm the same way. Make decisions, make decisions. I would rather it cost me money. You make a bad decision and it costs me money than no decision be made and you have to rely on me, because you're never going to grow at that point. And so my whole goal is for any of them that works here is for them to develop. What are your goals? Let's set your goals. So that's one of the biggest things we do here is we set the 90-day goals. I follow up on their goals. We add in their personal goals, everything. So we have to outlook on what does someone want to make sure that's in alignment with what we're doing, right?
I think there's a huge opportunity that people lose. When I was in the office in 2020, my assistant would use a stopwatch to see how often people would open my door when there's no other person in the office. Hey, Eric, can I ask you a quick question? It was on average every 45 to 115 seconds, right? Less than 2 minutes.
Wow.
Someone's asking a question. My personal assistant, when I hired her, part of the process was, hey, I would love to help you, but I'm paying you to help me. Before you ask me a question, please Google it for 3 hours. I have never been asked a question by her ever. What's remarkable is that the scope of work when you hire a VA oftentimes is I don't know, whatever it needs to be. So this week she found RVs for rent in the areas I had to rent to go camping with my family and to go to this last air race that we had, and sent me a spreadsheet with which ones I should pick, and made it so simple. Probably saved me 20 hours of work. No joke. That if you've ever rented an RV, it's the worst experience on the planet. I don't understand RV share. Please call me. I can help you make it better. But she has this philosophy. She's not going to ask me questions. So when I asked her to make me a new website, she never made a website before. So she Googled it and she just did it. And she said, what websites would you like it to look like? And I sent her a whole draft of different websites that were good. And dude, I don't love my website. It's fine. It has my bio on it, a way to contact me. But why do I need to be perfect? Right. It's just a page for people to find out more information about me. I don't have to be Mr. Perfectionist and ask for things to be changed. I do send her whenever I do a new podcast, hey, throw this in the website. I have no idea what the login is for that website. I have no idea where it's hosted. I don't know anything about it. I just know that the website's up now. And when you hire people with that idea that they have so much onus, they have the ownership to be able to believe that they can make decisions and they need to learn, especially these younger generations, because everyone, our age and older is terrified that these kids don't want to work. No, they need boundaries. Sports aren't fun without rules, right? It's great to create a boundary that says, hey, let's be insatiable learners all the time.
Well, that's great. Now, something you just brought up is another one of your businesses. You brought up air races. So tell us a bit about that business. I know we discussed it before, but you own a company that does air racing. And so tell us, what is that?
So it's a bizarre experience. I grew up in aviation, started all the aviation businesses. My biggest dream in life was to be an airshow pilot. This is after all my other dreams died when I broke my back, but I was very excited to be an airshow pilot. That dream came true in 2016. We got to fly at the world's largest air show with my paramotor aerobatic team. And through that, I'd started at airshow announcing, because apparently I can say a lot of things very quickly, and that's good in the airshow announcing business. And I can't seem to forget any aircraft fact. If someone mentions what engines in their airplane or what pistons they're running, I'll remember it forever. I don't know. I can't remember my name half the time, but that stuff just sticks. So in 2020, I started getting asked to come out and announce for this new company, National Stol. It's STOL, or short takeoff or landing. These are bush planes like you'd find in Alaska that are designed to take off in incredibly short distances and land in the same. And we have full-blown race airplanes that are taking off in less than 6 feet, landing in like 9.5 feet. And we have big airplanes that have 6, 8 seats that can take off still in 100 feet or less. So what happened was I'm here announcing, and the founder is like, all right, this is so much work. We're losing money like crazy. And I'm like, well, yeah, you started an aviation business. It's a sure way to lose money. So he wanted to roll it back. He wanted to go from 4 events a year to 2. And the opportunity came up to invest in the series. And we did, because what's incredible about this series is it inspires so many people to fly. We had over 83 million viewers in the last 12 months. And what's
Wow.
really neat for me, the reason I'm so passionate about aviation is for many people, it's the one entry point they'll have to ever seeing the world and then thus themselves from a different perspective. Astronauts call it the overlook effect. It's that opportunity to see the world differently. And you can get there with meditation, you can get there with therapy, you can get there through lots of different means. But for me, aviation was my gateway drug to getting to know who I really was. So I want the whole world to fly. And this aligned with that mission perfectly. So we get to go all over the country promoting aviation and really cool humans that fly these airplanes, some really crazy airplanes, and we get to inspire the next generation. So our whole mission there now is, how do we get it to pay for itself? So if you happen to have an in, our dream sponsor is Viagra, because we're the only motorsport guaranteed to get you up. And we have 35 to 65-year-old guys that watch our shows. That's all it is. It's almost all male, and it's all 35 to 65-year-old guys. It's Viagra's target market. I'm just saying, if you know somebody, we'd love to make something happen.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah. You should target hymns or something. They sell
We've
all the
talked to a
different
few.
ones.
We've
Yeah.
talked to a
Yeah.
few.
Yeah.
We need
That
the right
sounds
person, though. It's all
fantastic.
about people.
That's right. Oh my goodness, that's great. So a couple of this is going in so many different directions. It's hard to keep up. So one of the things that you just mentioned, right, was 83 million views on, and we're just like, anybody who's listening to this, whoever does anything on YouTube, it's like, most people jump on YouTube, they throw some things on there. You maybe get 1,000 views, 2,000 views. So my daughter is very good. She got some things with 1 million views,
Nice.
2 million views. That's her, but nobody's getting 83 million views. So what the heck are you guys doing on YouTube to get that many views for aviation, for crying out loud?
I know it's pretty wild. Our videos go mega viral on all the different platforms because it's so surprising. When our actual average viewer time per video is between 1.7 and 1.96 times per video. They don't watch the video once. They watch it almost twice because they can't believe what they've seen, which is why it's great for sponsors,
Wow.
because they're getting that ad feedback twice. And that's part of why we invested in the series. The goal was, how do we actually make this, it's like owning MotoGP or Formula One in the 1950s. Like, we have all these opportunities and cool things we can do with it. And the crazy thing is this. So hear me out. 83 million views is cool. We have 0 employees. We have over
Wow.
700 volunteers. We have 1 contract employee. She's our COO. She manages all the events. She's incredible. And she did it for the first year for free. All right. Absolutely incredible people, all aligned on a very clear mission to understand what they're doing and how it's making the world a better place. I'm telling you, it's not rocket science. EOS had this figured out years ago. And I just keep following that system, plus all the other systems I've learned throughout my life. And we build these incredible communities, because it's not just about the brand and the money and the views. It's about the communities. It's about bringing people together that feel like they're with their family. This last event we had in Texas was our finals for the year. And I watched people hugging like they would never hug their brother. These are people who have escaped death together, right? It is an incredible community of people. I tell people, like, the brands behind me, I have my logos from different businesses. I have friends who've gotten tattoos of my logo as their first tattoo. Like, that
Oh,
tells you built a
wow.
brand that's about community. It's about something bigger than just me. It's never going to be the Eric Farewell show, right? I want it to be about how we make the world better.
Yeah, I mean, a brand's made it when they don't even know who the heck you are. That's what you would
Yes.
like. You don't even want them to know who you are. So, that's the biggest thing that you can see is normally when someone's naming business with their name in it, then you're like,
Yeah.
oh, this is, are they really trying to elevate and create something, or it becomes more of an ego thing? But go back. So the things that you're saying are validating this. Now, when these people are first engaging, how are they understanding your mission? Or is it, yeah, because this is astonishing to me that you're getting all of this. Where is the mission? Is there a mission statement they're seeing? How is the mission getting understood?
So it's a really excellent question. And I have two answers for you. Every business actually has a different answer. Uh, for many, many years, we always said that at Aviator, our parameter company, we said, look, our job is to get them in the door and then surprise them that they're not just here to learn to fly, because they think that's what they're getting. And people want to get what they pay for. And of course, they'll learn to fly. But our real mission is to inspire them to overcome their fears through that flight and start to shift other things in their life that they've been fearing. Right? That's the real mission. That's the mission at Aviator. At National Stoll, people want to come out and watch something really cool, and they want to be a part of it. They want to volunteer. They want to fly in the competition. We have 280 pilots that fly with us, something like that now, and but yet we finally offered our first cash prize in 4 years, right? And they're spending $20,000 to $40,000 a year on avgas to go to the events. It's not cheap, right? But they come
Wow.
camaraderie. They come for the people. They come for the fact that the biggest shift over the last 2,000 years in the way that humanity works is we stripped away the idea of community and family in favor of personality and identity. And identity is beautiful. It's powerful. Marry who you want, be who you want to be. You can be anything. I love all of those things. But the gaping hole in our hearts is feeling like we belong somewhere and feeling like the people we are with share the same values, even if we have disagreements on beliefs, like there's a ton of people who vote differently than I do or go to different churches than I do. It doesn't matter because we all believe in something. And what I love about flying is once you're in a cockpit, it's the great equalizer. It doesn't matter if you're straight, gay, man, woman, doesn't matter. You're just another pilot. Right. And that's what's really fun is you start to build these communities. I do the same thing in my entrepreneur businesses, like where I'm coaching and consulting. It's like all of these stories, we all have so many similar stories. And it's more about how do we bring people together versus trying to polarize and separate them. I hate the polarization. I think there's so much opportunity for growth when we come together.
That is amazing. Yeah. And especially this day and age, and to speak to the younger generation, they're so disconnected. It's such a lonesome generation that we have going right now. All of the connection on the internet, the social media, the games, it feels like there is such limit to connection. Kids barely know how to talk to each other. I know, kids, they're not dating. Boys and girls aren't dating each other till much older. They don't even know how to speak to each other unless it's through an app,
Yeah.
and they don't talk. It's all texting. So they have very limited, interactions physically one-on-one. So to your point, and that is probably your biggest driver, is that creation of community and giving someone a feeling of belonging. It doesn't matter how much that costs. When you say $20,000, $40,000, what does it matter? Because to go back to our original beginning, to you, when you're working, you're doing whatever, your family, that's all that really matters. All the financial stuff, that's, great. That allows you to do things, right? But really, the more money that you have, normally the less connection that you have. So you would give all that money for a deep connection, which is,
What really matters at your funeral? The amount
right.
of money in your bank account or the people who show up for your family when you're gone?
Yep.
Right. I care
Absolutely.
more about that. I had to witness that for my 22-year-old brother. And I watched probably 600 people file into that room from all different walks of life. You wouldn't believe. He had community.
Yeah.
And I want to ensure that the community that walks into my funeral are the best daggum humans they can possibly be. And I will tell you right now, my community is incredible. I say this very clearly. Community is currency. You cannot be broke when you have great community. If everything wash up today, right now, there's probably 15 people I could call and walk away with 7 to 8 figures of capital to do whatever I needed to do. Community is currency. Belief and love is currency.
That is amazing. Yeah. Now I don't have those connections, but that's great that you do. That is very good. I would say, you were definitely greater at community than I would be. It takes something deeper inside. So that's great. So Now, to speak to that, as I say that, right? So, another business that you're in, and one, this is fresher, this is your most current new business, is consulting, business consulting. And probably, a great thing listening to you and your story is very inspiring. So, based on that, tell me how you got into the consulting. How's that going?
Well, I was firmly retired. I pretended to be retired and did a whole bunch of work for a mastermind community instead of stopping working, because stopping working is really scary. You have to be alone with yourself. But I actually fully didn't do anything. I watched most of YouTube, got near to the end, not quite all of it. Played a bunch of video games with my kids, and I was bored. So when a friend asked me to be on his podcast to tell my story, much like this, we ended up wrapping the conversation after an hour. He turns over to me, he goes, "Eric, I want you to teach me how you did that." I said, "Did what?" He said, "Owned all those companies and you don't work." I was like, Okay. So for about 6 weeks, we went back and forth and we looked at his business and got all the details. And I understood the model and understand the market and understand what he's doing that he hates, which is a crucial question to ask yourself and your employees. What do you do every day that you hate? If there's anything on that list, there has to be a way to get off. For me, it was email. I hated email with such a vicious passion. And I was getting about 400 plus emails a day, right? And I just hated them. It's hours of my day every day. And I'm answering the same questions. At this point, I'm in the business for what, 9 years? Like there's very few new questions after 9 years, right? There's hundreds of thousands of emails. So eventually I was like, okay, how do I do this? So I would go in and I would ask my assistant to go through and look at the emails and then write replies. And she'd have to Google through my inbox and find the answers, and she'd leave them as drafts. And I'd go in and I make a loom and I correct the areas where she messed them up, and then I'd send them. So I went from 4 hours a day to 40 minutes. And then after about a month of that, she got good enough that she could send them. And every once in a while, I get a mistake, right? It's not often, but you get these little mistakes and we learn from them. We make a quick loom. Now it's done. So I learned these little pieces, these little tools to give things away that I hated. And I did the same thing for my friend. Witnessing him discover what his real mission is, what his real vision is, understanding how he can hire and fire based upon those things, and that every time he hires someone new, he's giving them an opportunity to take his passion and turn it into food for their family. And what a gift that is. Changed his business, changed his world. And I had more fun doing that than anything else I'd done in years. It was so inspiring to be able to take my experiences and share them. And then his podcast dropped. And I got 7 people who contacted me and said, "Eric, we want you to coach us." I said, "Oh, I don't want to work. I'm working through YouTube, man. I'm on a mission." But I did take some of them on as clients. And it has been such a wonderful year. It's been 11 months and it's been so much fun. And I actually had not put anything together official until this past week. So in January, we're running our first accelerator, and it's the Freedom Accelerator. How do you build a business around creating freedom for you so that you can leave a real legacy? And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're probably going to, I'm going to keep it small, probably 15 people, but I can't do as much one-on-one coaching as people would like, because the reality is I still don't want to work more than 6 hours a week. I have my limits now. I mean, I had the inverse problem I had before.
Right. Yeah. Well, that is fantastic. Now, when you're doing this, does it matter? Are you niching it? Like, so your other businesses are extremely niche. Are you niching this to just a specific client type, a specific level of industries? How are you approaching this?
So what's been really interesting is apparently I'm the niche. If people think that I'm weird enough or fun enough or have done enough crazy things, and trust me, I've done them all. Not really. I'm pretty darn cautious, actually, as a person. People wouldn't believe that, but it's the truth. Um, what I found is people who are drawn to my story and would like to have something similar happen in their lives. My current one-on-one clients are in such diverse groupings. I've been with a woman who has a beauty brand mastermind, helping founders of beauty brands, makeup companies, that kind of thing, grow. I've got a guy who's in private lending and building homes, single family homes, and in mortgage brokering. So 3 different companies. I've got a car dealer. Very, very diverse, but and another coach also as well. So there's this very broad group, but they're all the right people. And I vet for a long time for one-on-one, especially because it's very expensive and it's my time. And I want to be, I want to make sure it's going to be a win-win for both sides. And thus far, the results are, I got a text yesterday. One of my clients, she goes, "Eric, my business is up 21% in the first 30 days of working together. And I am up 121%. I'm like, okay, then we're doing something right. That feels good. I like that. So yeah, it's
That
not
is
really hyper
great.
niched. It's really more about finding people at the right place in their life when they're ready to make a big change.
That is fantastic. Yeah. And I do always recommend anybody if, if you're struggling in your business and, one of it is the biggest game changers in life. If you can get someone that aligns with you, it has to be the right person, but if you can get someone that aligns with you, your business can skyrocket. If you have someone that can just come in and it will seem in the beginning like, oh, why didn't I think of that? It's so simple. Why didn't I think of that? But you really have to take the steps to get that right person to step in. And you would not believe how quickly, if you get that right player to help you, how quickly your business can elevate and elevate and elevate again. And it is truly you taking, so now that Eric's taken these reps, right? So now he has some reps going through with business owners and understanding, just like with any business, once you get some reps in that and you can quickly identify the things that are holding you back from growth. And
Mm.
you could sit and think about these things all day, but if you don't have reps on doing that, you're going to struggle. So someone with your experience is massive for so many people's businesses and small business owners all over. So Eric, I think that that's great. I wish you all the success in that. If somebody wants to see if you and them are a fit, what's the best way to reach out and detail that further?
They should absolutely go to my website that my assistant made that I don't love but works. And that's ericfarewell.com, EricFarewell, ericfarewell.com. I'm very easy to find, very easy to reach. Either myself or my assistant will reply to you.
Awesome. And are you still taking clients right now?
We have so the accelerator in January is really the push right now. I'm not sure that I want to sign any more one-on-ones, but the accelerator, the goal is 12 weeks. Every week's a really intensive focus on some different tool. There's different ways that we can start to understand how we're using our time, how we can create the most clear core values. Tons of different frameworks. We have so many cool opportunities, and the way that this will be run is going to be very much like it'll feel more like a one-on-one experience because each of the different participants will be working together. So you're going to be learning how to share without giving advice and learning how to really be present with other people who are also going through some really cool or hard things. It can be both. And sometimes life is both incredibly rewarding and awesome and incredibly traumatizing and terrible. And that's the journey.
The ebbs and flows of life. That's exactly right. That is it. So again, and I'll put it in the show notes. It's ericfarewell.com, EricFarewell.com. Eric, it's been such a pleasure having you on today. I sincerely appreciate you joining us, and hopefully we can keep in touch in the future, sir.
Tony, thank you so much for having me. I eventually will have to build some property in Charleston, I guess, or somewhere in South Carolina so you can help me out.
That's right, sir. That's right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.